Welcome to the Daring Creativity podcast. I mean, it's a live conversation from OFFF Festival, but Daring Creativity is a podcast about a show to dare forever explore creativity that isn't about shiny perfection. It's about showing up with all your doubts and imperfections and making them count. It's about becoming more of who you already are. My name is Radim Malinic. I'm a designer, author, and eternally curious human being. I'm talking to a broad range of guests. Some of them actually might be in the room. Hello. I'm talking to a broad range of guests who share the story of small actions that spark lifelong discoveries, taking one step towards what makes them feel alive. This show reaches 161 countries, getting 250,000 downloads in the last 2 years. And this is my very first live episode, and I can't be any more happier to do it here at OFFF 2026. By the way, no, we're going to do this again. It's OFFF 2026. Hey, right. As I said, it's the first live episode, and I could not be more privileged and joyed to welcome my friend PJ Richardson to share the stage with me for the first episode, the live episode.
Thank you, my friend.
Nice one.
Thank you.
So, PJ, welcome to Daring Creativity OFFF Festival.
Thank you.
We are equipped with 2 clickers.
Yeah.
So I normally say this catchphrase on my podcast and say, for those who may have not heard of PJ Richardson, how would you introduce yourself?
Just by my name. I'm PJ.
Oh.
Person.
I always find it quite interesting when people say, there are people with very broad and beautiful output and say, well, how would you introduce yourself? How would you introduce yourself? And they say, I don't really know. And I'm like, I can see all your work, I can see everything that you do, but sometimes is it hard to give it a title, give it a name?
No, I think I've seen this question comes up a lot, right? And I've seen it happen, unfold, where everybody defines themselves by what they do, but we do a lot of things, and that's not who we are. So,
what does it,
my name.
Sorry if I interrupt you, but what is the name on your business card? What does it say?
ECD and co-founder of Laundry,
Exactly.
a motion design studio in LA and San Francisco.
We've got your.
We do this stuff. We make colorful things, and we attempt to make people happy with what we do, and just keep trying to do more of it, and stay curious and have some fun.
How long have you been in the industry so far? How long have you been working?
Oh, 25 years.
25. So
Yeah,
it's pretty much like
we started Laundry 20 years ago this year, so
wow.
It's yeah. Thank you.
I mean, we met a year ago at Paradiso in Mexico, and we were talking about what you do, and you said, I'm just working with these people, it's a bit chaotic, I'm just doing stuff that I'm not really used to, I'd like to have more sort of rigidity in the structure. And you were working with Linkin Park, creating their visuals. And I'm thinking, it's Linkin Park, come on, tell me more about it. But we are here to celebrate the titles for OFFF 2026. PJ, I've got a question for you. What does daring forever mean to you?
Oh man, so many things. I mean, like, it's the key to staying inspired and to keep going creatively is because, creativity stays the same. We get older, but I think the temptation is to sometimes, especially in this day and age, to give up and to just sort of call it and fall on our heels, especially with AI and uncertainty, right? But ultimately the reason we got into this was the courage and the risk taking and the experimentation and kind of all the crazy chaos of being creative. And so I think it's just the mindset of just keep being that 17-year-old self that I think got all of us into being creative in some form, right?
That's an amazing answer.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked this, because, show your hands, have you got one of these? If you're not, did you get through the back door? So I'm sure you've opened this. There's a card inside. So we've got audience participation. What I want you to do, what me and PJ want you to do, there's a card which is a square. There's a reason why there's a pencil. And there's a question, what does daring forever mean to you? You don't have to write it straight away, but we want you to write your first answer for now. What does daring forever mean to you? And whilst you think about it, we're going to carry on. So, PJ, you and I did a podcast episode about 9 months ago.
Yeah.
And you asked you about your background, and you said you came from the graffiti scene.
That's right.
And when the pennies dropped, I was like, there it is. It's a digital graffiti. It's a 21st century graffiti.
100%.
Yeah. So, who's seen the titles yesterday? Have you guys seen them? Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
I think they're better than that. Come on.
we can watch it again tonight. It's,
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible piece of work because, I mean, you've tackled something that hasn't been done before.
right.
It's totally new. I mean, Pep was so excited that this happened. I was lucky to see the process from start to finish. And I'm excited to share this with you because our conversation is very much about the titles and what goes behind the scenes and all this stuff. But what was it feel like for you when you actually seen all of this finally on the side of a building, which is, I mean, bigger than anything I've ever seen?
Oh man, it's emotional. Like it's still I get chills even just looking at it now. I think it's the like we're all together here creatively, all with a shared love for what we do in design and all the different sort of subcategories it falls into. We're all together most of us in a faraway place with the intention of being inspired and then there's just the added layer of like doing something gigantic in front of all of my peers and the joy and the pressure of that. And then purely the technical miscalculation, quite frankly, of something so enormous than being like, holy fuck, that actually worked. Which is, kind of a theme in what we do at Laundry. We say yes and then kind of figure it out later and then pray to God that it works.
But like you say, the gigantic miscalculations, because some of the projections that were sort of crowdsourced and submitted were like 5-10 seconds.
Yeah.
When I've spoken to you when you guys were working on this, I was thinking like 3 minutes to 2.5 minutes, and then I've seen the final piece. It was like 9.5 minutes.
Yeah. All right. I'll tell you the full story. I don't know if this is the right point, but I'll tell it to you. So the way that this unfolded is being on the other in the room, looking out and seeing all these wonderful titles by all of our heroes over the years, right? I was like, man, I want to do that. I really like that would be cool. So I emailed Pep for probably 3 years in a row asking, and timing wasn't right. And this year, as luck would have it, timing was right. It was maybe January, like early January. He said, "You know what? Yeah, let's do it." And so I agreed, thinking that it would just be 69-minute video on roots and usual thing. Committed, and then got there. He's like, "Oh, we're projection mapping it." I'm like, "Okay, cool. This is not the plan, but sounds rad." And then got the technical specs and was like, "Holy shit!" Like it was a lot bigger. And then it just kept getting trickier. He's like, I was like, "Well, how long do you want it? Like 1 minute, 2 minutes?" He's like, "Well, there's 55 to 75 names in there," and you're like, 3 seconds a piece. To be fair, that's how we do titles. And you're like, suddenly the calculator out and was like, shit.
We'll definitely get through absolutely the process, because you've taken my question out of my mouth, really, where it all started. And I like that you said you've been emailing Pep for 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in making future happen, inventing your future.
You ask. It's like, James from Future Deluxe and I are having a conversation even about clients, and like, just reach out, share, ask anything. And most times people don't answer, but they see it, and then they don't, something doesn't get answered until it does.
Truth to be told, we're sitting here because we asked.
Yeah, that's exactly. Truth be told, thank you, because I sort of passed on a conversation about the titles. I just honestly couldn't see technically or creatively how to look at process stuff for 55 minutes, as good or bad as it might be, without boring everybody. And then you had this idea of this conversation and asked and got us here. So it's,
So I've actually advanced us to the inspiration. Let me see if I can go back on this. Because you guys, obviously, the OFF every single year gets a bit of a branding system by an agency that says a theme. And this year, the theme was created by Uncommon. I didn't know that Uncommon were swabbing people for their DNA and their germs at their mixers. I was in one of them in London. And I couldn't really put one and one together of like, what does it all mean? Like, I've seen the shelf. I was like, what's this? But you had a bit of an insight on this.
You made it sound darker than it really was. But so the idea that they came up with that I thought was absolutely incredible was that the community, OFF is made of the community of people, the attendees that are here, right? It's in each in our own individual way, but we all come together as one instead of one ecosystem that makes this community that's here at OFF. And they got to this mold idea as a representation of that, as something, however you want to decide what mold means to you, is something ugly or beautiful or individual or what have you, and came up with this brilliant identity of literally making it, growing it, and having it become the community coming together and having that literally be what the identity is for OFF. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not that smart, but that's really cool, and I want to be a part of that.
What did it feel like to see the theme, which is, I mean, it's not standard. I mean, seeing sort of germs and sort of, what would you call it, like penicillin kind of thing, like other molds. Did it feel like, what was the first reaction to it? Like, this is not the regular thing we're working with here. And normally there's a photography and type and some sort of design system.
Really, really sound and fascinating concept and beautiful to look at. And so, and my very first instinct was, hey, there's no good or bad way to do anything creative in what we do, certainly at a conference. But my first instinct was like, hey, why don't we make the titles tie in with the branding? That was my first thought. Like, let's make make it, and started pulling reference that you guys are seeing here of all these cool like trippy mold things on from Pinterest, and like with every idea and intentionality of starting there and ending there with the visual look of this, and that was a jumping off point. Very quickly, I realized that both because of time and skill set, we were not going to pull this off to literally grow our own mold for the titles, or to create it in Houdini or any other tools. I just didn't have those moons were not aligning for the creative direction for this, but we were trying.
What I liked what you did, you've seen the visual stuff, you kind of like tried to dissect it, how can you potentially recreate it in 3D. But when we spoke about it, when you were working on this at the beginning, like, you actually made a statement, you actually made a statement piece where you wanted to summarize the element of cultured audience, like how we all here together and how we sort of work together. And this was your statement piece. How did you unlock it?
Yeah, like I think one of the biggest things that, thinking about the audience here and ignoring a second, like the style of what we make. I think the commonality between all of us here at OFF is that we challenge the status quo of creativity in some way or another. And you can call it a rebel, you can call it whatever you want. It's not about being rebellious necessarily, but we're here because, like this question, we ask, what if? We all pull, like the amount of people you meet every single year that come here that are like, I couldn't afford this, or I'm from a faraway place, or I was in a different place and I maxed out my credit cards to go to OFF to get inspired, and I did the same thing early on, and I was like, man, that's what this is all about. That's where we all are at some point and start and certainly begin at, because of this passion to get to where we want to go, because it's just such a cool, privileged, awesome, humbling experience to be able to be as creative as we all get to be and be around each other. And so that theme of challenging the status quo, and then I think the one little check mark I added to it was with joy, because look, creativity is so subjective and it is so hard, and especially in this day and age, there's so much pressure with world chaos. There's this whole AI thing, and so it was just like, okay, how do we challenge all of that with joy? And that was the theme that came out of this, to try to put something on this idea of community that the Uncommon team had formulated so well with this identity.
I mean, it's a big statement. Let's challenge the status quo with joy, because it obviously, you got the hard part and then you try to make it fun. Like, let's do it, let's enjoy it. And I remember telling you that ever since we were talking about this conversation prior for the last few weeks, I started seeing the word joy everywhere.
Yeah.
And I opened a Roller magazine, which is a cycling magazine, and there was an article about a Spanish gravel rider, and she was like, I'm done chasing the titles, I'm now going to go and chase the joy of cycling. And I'm like, but you've been doing the thing, but the joy thing, the joy is not always present. So I like that you sort of challenge the statement, and say, listen, not only challenge the status quo, but do it whilst enjoying it.
Yeah, it's an intentionality. It doesn't. Some people are just happy and things fall into place and things are rad. But a lot of the time, you kind of have to force yourself there, given any number of different reasons.
You've put this slide in here, which I think it's a big question. What is creativity?
Yeah. So here's the big challenge that I ran into with this beautiful mold idea, and even this challenging the status quo with joy is like, what do you do for at least 4 to 5 minutes of titles, and how do you add any rationale or any meaning or any purpose or any, like literally, how do you make something and give it a reason?
Yeah.
And so I asked this big question is, what is creativity? And where I got to with it is, even the next slide is, what is community? And ultimately I broke that down and took this really postmodern approach to this, where the process and the journey is the art. Like that is the in this case, that is the titles and so what is the journey? And that, but the journey is us coming here, is us doing work to get to the end. It's the same way that it is us coming here from wherever we're coming from for whatever we're going through to become the community together at one place, which is OFF.
Yeah, because I like what you put together. You put joy, creativity, community together, put it on a journey, and you say the journey is the joy and struggle.
Yeah, because it's easy to make these slides with these big one statements, but ultimately it's the messy reality is that it's a mix of everything. It's joy if you decide it to be, but it's also struggle no matter what you decide, because sometimes things are hard. And in a case and I think in the journey of creativity, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but it's a roller coaster. It's up and down and up and down and back and forth, and I think that's the comment that I wanted to make with a piece like this.
No, I'm looking forward to getting to the roller coaster as soon as we get into the technical slides. The second question, as PJ has now been talking about joy, he suggested a question, what gives you joy? So you've got this card and a few more minutes to actually write what gives you joy. So if you have a think about it and fill that in, there's a conclusion to, there's a reason why you're doing the homework and not sitting just quietly. PJ, in your process slides, or in your deck and your frame board, you had these 3 stages of creating this. You got anticipation, process, and celebration. Do you want to tell us what it means?
Yeah, that's the journey. That's the creative journey, and that's how I wanted to break up in the titles into three chapters that are here. I think the anticipation, when let's say we get a project or decide to make a project, right? The anticipation and excitement, and sometimes the stress, because I think as creatives, it's our passion is to challenge ourselves. We get pretty bored pretty easily doing the same thing, so we're like, well, let's do something new, and that gets us a surge of joy and excitement, but also you're like, holy shit, how do I do that, right? And then the process is something that I think, at least in my world, clients have been really, really putting really cramping into and saying, we need it now, we need it tomorrow, get it on the first try. And so the idea of play and experiment and just trying to see what can be discovered by making a ton of different things. And then I touched on the celebration, that's when it all comes together. That's getting to the end, that's aiming for the end, that's getting to the happy place, if you will.
What were the failures? What were the what ifs? What was there? Because I have to say, from running my own creative studio for nearly 20 years, we would normally start with a frame board and a mood board and start with something and get to a completely different place. Whereas your mood boards were actually pretty close to what you suggested to do to actually the final product. So how rigid was it? What were the failures and what were the what ifs?
Well, the reason I have this slide is that I've learned from many talks that I've seen here that it's one thing to have an idea, but to experiment and play and to just make a bunch of stuff, no matter, because and this happened a million times on this. I had tons of ideas I thought were great, and as soon as I started it, they were total garbage. And so the idea here is for no good reason except that I like doing 3D. I worked in Cinema 4D and Maxon. Shout out to the Maxon team here. This is my Maxon. Let's just some UI slides here. And viewport stuff, and just started making a ton of stuff, just experiments to see what was like viscerally cool. And from there, just see what could kind of formulate itself from it, so that, and not overthink it. And they were all failures per se, but you also helped me learn something from it and helped me be like, okay, well, this little unmemorable thing became this, and suddenly you have piles of 1,000. It's sort of like it's like the reverse social media. You know how we see all those one posts of amazingness, and they're secretly something like one of 1,000 bad days for a particular artist. This was like 1,000 shitty ones to get to the one day, one little snippet of an idea. So that's the whole like failure, what ifs thing.
It's really interesting because how annoying, that's the wrong words to choose. What was the challenge about getting to the shape of the building? Because it's not a standard format. Like, did you already started thinking like there are certain limitations in the shape, or did you actually take it on thinking we got a challenge like we've not done ever before?
Yeah, so Pep, to his credit, was like, hey, this is a screen for OFF, this is a screen for Barcelona, this is a screen for people walking by that don't know anything about creativity. So how can we do something that warps their perception of even an abnormal screen to begin with? And so it was a lot of thinking about how to use that as a box, as a screen, as a surface, you know, and so it was definitely like, this is not how we normally work. How do we do something with that? But I kept coming back to how can I get this identity, this beautiful mold idea from Uncommon, and we're still trying to give it a good old college try with some of our 3D experiments, and it looks like little kids' toys to the beauty of what they're making. And but we're still trying at the same time.
What are we looking at on the right-hand side? So on the left-hand side is the OFF identity, and this is, what did you grow it in, or what did you
The
do?
left side is from the Uncommon team that literally grew that with real mold, a real mold artist, and all of its beauty. And the me is on the right with the team trying to recreate it in 3D to you know, just because we wanted the control and sort of line it up, but it just wasn't good enough.
And then it's moved on from, kind of almost like semi-park, the idea that the mold is going to be the main character, the main hero, and you've taken in those 3 stages that's going to almost create like 3 chapters. So where did the inspiration come from that just flashed up? Like, where did you collect it from?
So we started to respect let me see if I can explain this the right way. We started to respect that this was really ambitious and got a little like scared. So we were like, and then also, but it also kind of lined up with this idea of anticipation. So we're like, okay, the first chapter, let's test out like technically what our systems can even do. So we started to explore this cube voxel world because we're like, okay, this is going to be a lot lighter on our CG and see what cool stuff we can do. But it also became this really interesting aesthetic that represented the early idea that hasn't formed yet, the anticipation and excitement, but this very basic thing that you know is very analog and frankly like imperfect. But at the same time, I also started to see like, hey, this is our first status quo breaking moment of using, you know, flat bricks on the wall of the front and starting to warp those with field effectors and stuff in 3D that kind of breaks your perception of what a flat surface is. And then from there, you know, as you're going through it, it's really messy, but you start to be like, well, what about this idea? And so we're doing experiments like this that seem really great one afternoon, and you put it in and you're like, this is total garbage, and you get that out of the way.
I absolutely love it.
No, you know, yeah, but it just didn't, I don't know, it didn't feel like it had enough going on, but it became, again, it's the what ifs from the quote unquote failures and became something else. And then the process became the art on this because it led us to this very sort of like amorphous, moldy, like coagulating like a bunch of no ideas coming into one idea aesthetic with this thing. Of course, we had to do the AI thing, run it through AI to see what it would look like, and it looked like we had nachos and bubble gum, and it didn't digest very well, and it was AI, and we were like, let's I don't know, we didn't like it. It felt a little too, frankly, like AI slop. So we ruled it out, got it out of there, no AI in the final piece, and I actually like AI stuff, we just couldn't get it anywhere we liked, and it didn't serve our purpose.
I like what you said, it was a bunch of no ideas coming into one big idea. It's like the process of curation. Like, I mean, for example, the piece that I liked, you were like, no, it didn't work. I mean, yeah, the fuzzy AI stuff, I mean, but especially the beginning, like the solid shapes were really good. But what was the process of curation? Like, did you work on it yourself? Did you say, I'm directing this, or was it an input from other?
Well, no, I was directing this.
Yeah.
I was directing this with my inner voice that was or voices that were complete chaos, and like some days I liked it, some days I was like, this is shit. And
so I've got a question for you, because I know you and I talk quite a bit, and sometimes in one of our conversations, it once came up that it was the element of trust, that sometimes you don't feel like you are fully behind something, that you feel like maybe am I making the wrong choice. What was the element of trust in here?
I think it was the discomfort of not knowing if it was good or good enough or would hold up and just keep grinding through it in spite of the inner tension. And then eventually something came that you're like, oh yeah, But it's not like, there's no logical thing to it. It was just one little motion test and texture thing, and you're like, yeah, that's it.
So I've got us to a process stage. So that's when things become to be a bit more juicier. I'm waiting for the thing to show up. Let's go. Here we go, color and texture. So in the process, originally the plan was to create color-coded stages and all of that stuff. How quickly did you, because I know that most of what's in there is quite close to what you had originally planned, but how did you kind of travel with the idea? Because this process section is, by the way, for anyone who is into soft bodies and particles, is going to enjoy the next 10 minutes because it's just going to be a blizzard of 3D thrown into the shape of building. But you touched on, in the process, obviously in the beginning in the process, you touched on the fact that this is about creative community. It's about friendship. It's about how we come together and how we sort of celebrate our sort of own shared creativity. The people that you worked on with them, how did they come about? Like, who was the sort of deciding factor?
This is the plot twist. So this is me working on this for a long time, not for a long time, for like maybe a month, and being like, okay, this is way more than I can handle. But at the same time, like, I knew about this. I had got to this process section, and I knew that, like, look, for all the like Houdini and C40 artists that are into this stuff like myself, it's so fun to just experiment with different techniques. And so I've created this category to be able to find these experiments, to find, do stuff, to try, soft bodies, all the stuff, all the fun 3D shit. And then, but at the same time, I was like, I am out of my element here, like time-wise. Like, I need to ask for help, and I suck at asking for help. But my friend Alex Liu, amazing Houdini artist. I've done tons of titles with him, and just hit him up and was like, as if he wouldn't say yes. But I was like, I need help, and he's like, dude, we always do this stuff together. Yeah. And but what was really interesting and cool about this process was that it was not like, hey, you must do this. I had all of these categories of things we could explore, and and I like sort of the simplicity of some of it, like the Men v Nike reference that now is kind of retro and dated, but there was this element of speed and excitement of just cool little experiments with some art-directed color, and I wasn't like, do that, but I was like, Alex, just play with stuff you wanted to play with. What if he's been doing some, I don't even remember how he described it, and so he just started making his own stuff for this process section and just let the cook. And
what was the process of you letting go and actually giving him the trust? Because are we looking at some early development stages? What was that?
Well, everybody works differently. Like, I like to be kind of more emotional and stressy and existential with my, like, inner chaos and what does this all mean. Alex is completely different. It's just much more technical as an artist, and he just was like, I was like, yeah, we'll just use their color palette, throw it on at the end. Here's a lighting setup that's consistent. Now, do what you want to do and see what you can do and find. And he started making piles and piles of stuff, and and then real life considerations came up, like, is it quick enough? Is it long enough? Is it, that kind of a thing? But it became very sort of methodical with his side of things, and we just started kind of pecking away.
It's really interesting when you said, is it quick enough? Is it long enough? Like, because did you have do you have a spreadsheet with all the names on it and go like, this is this person, this is the section they get, or was it more?
No, I didn't. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to the names of the titles. I knew what they were going to be and where they're going to sit, but I was much more in consideration of the audience standing in the room or standing outside and how they would take it in, and also the scale. How this plays in a little QuickTime on your computer versus how we're all looking at it on the out in the outside was like, hey, let it play out, but let it not be so fast or so slow that it puts you to sleep or makes you, throw up or something. So it was trying to just be delightful in just the right cadence.
Because the titles are, always beautifully, incredibly designed and executed by so many amazing studios. And sometimes you try to find like the way of like, how far did you go with this? Like, what did you create it and why? And like, how did you get that meaning into this? And in your way, we were talking about the fact that is there a way to challenge the status quo and introduce the organisms, the molds and that kind of stuff, and then introduce everyone as a character or as a sort of end credits. But that idea kind of floated for a while, but then...
Yeah, I think we just went with our heart and who we are as artists and our passions, and kind of just made the stuff we wanted to make, and just break the rules of like brand consistency. I sound dismissive of Uncommon. It's not the case at all. It was just, we wanted to make a bunch of crazy stuff and also make it change enough to keep the audience, ourselves as part of that, entertained by constantly trying different things and letting the like chaos and mismatching and the sort of postmodern process as art lead it, and just let it be this just very experimental thing. And you know, back to the friendships thing, it started to invite other people in, like our friend Alejandro, who's this amazing CG artist in Colombia. I think he might be here, at least around here. We called him and was like, hey, we want to do this hand reaching out thing because we want to try to trip people out and again break this perception of what it is to have a surface. And so he got in there, started making a bunch of stuff and experimenting with stuff, and we got this like cool life. So it was again just like little micro ideas to try to be different and be, I don't know, an experiment, and then pulling in different friends along the way.
This is an interesting one, because I saw Alejandro yesterday at dinner, and he was like, PJ called me and I had to be involved. Like, I had to be part of it. Like, this he couldn't miss out. Like, I wanted to do it, even though he was busy. Like, I want to do something. But it's really interesting to see like how everyone's got slightly different style to this, like how everyone's already sort of bringing something different to each chapter.
I think again, you know, bringing it back to the beginning, like when we're all here, or at least when I'm making stuff for a conference like this with my peers, I respect this audience so much, and I've stood on every side of this, and it's the social pressure of like, man, I want to be as cool enough or as creative enough or whatever, and then the whole thing just became about tearing that skin off away and just being who we are deep down and making the stuff we like to make and letting it just kind of come out however it does, you know. And that was it was kind of a shedding of pressure in a way as we went.
What was interesting, you said just a minute ago, you said you're quite an emotional creative, stressy. How much stress was this?
Incredible. Like it's like an emotional pendulum of inner chaos all the time. Just because it's you know, all the imposter syndrome stuff, even though on paper I have nothing at this point to be impostery about, but it's still there because it's the dance partner would challenge yourself to do something different. Like that's we challenge ourselves as creatives to do something different, but it's wildly uncomfortable. But at the same time, that's when we get into you know, especially when things as technical as this or not don't go swimmingly well, like you're like, or you're still like, ah.
It's an interesting one because I always say that, I always imagine creativity from the outside to be this calm lake with no ripples and the sunset in the background, right? You know, that's what creativity is. We sit at home and create this beautiful work, but the reality is completely different. It's wipeouts, it's storms, it's near drowning situation.
Sometimes.
Until
you get to this last chapter, and you call my friend Josh Pierce, who's an amazing C4D and Octane artist, and literally bases this beautiful work on meditation and in creating environments and creating landscapes. And actually no, I'm lying. First I was like, yeah, let's make some CG landscapes. And then I was like, well, let's take this surface and make it a room and make it basically a neon nightclub. And I was like, let's make people dance and party outside off at the end. And then for whatever reason, we changed our mind and I didn't feel like doing that. And then I still was like, well, I don't have time to do any of this. Then we called Josh Pierce.
You called Josh Pierce.
Josh Pierce is an amazing artist that bases a lot of his work around meditation and landscape and this sense of like, I don't know, calm and serenity. He does these really beautiful worlds that center on shapes and neon. I've been a bin fan. We're very close friends, and I like very like meekly over lunch was like, "Could you help?" And he's like, "Dude, of course."
Nice.
And so he went to work and started making his worlds. But we, you know, O for off. I wish it was a bit more clever than that. But we started with that as sort of the end goal, the end place of the journey. And he started experimenting and making this stuff, and basically taking these worlds that he built and creating these growing things that lead us, that kind of represent all of us coming to off and all of us getting to the end of the creative journey. is sort of the rationale and motif for some of this early stuff. And then we kept at it, and then eventually we figured out that the circle represents all of creativity, all of us, all of OFF. It's the person, it's the artist, and it's it's easy because it's like the O of OFF, but it became kind of our it starts with a cube, clay, forms itself, sculpts itself into the circle, and that becomes when creativity sort of shapes, and that became our little motif to carry through.
So much going on in this.
Yeah.
So we are at these three stages again: process, so anticipation, process, and celebration. Did you celebrate when you finished it? Did you have a sigh of relief going, it's done?
I celebrated.
Or is it done?
Yeah.
Could you still work on it?
Yeah, no, it's done when it plays. There's some technical stuff that just has kept sort of, when it was done in my heart was when I stood outside with everybody else last night and kind of watched this play and just sort of felt the moment, which I think is what this all is and all this comes to. Like, we're still tweaking stuff because there's always something, but yeah, that was the moment of like standing with everybody last night and again tonight. That's when it's sort of finished.
The one thing that really got me was like how it was cohesive from start to finish. Like, how did you blend it one bit after another? And it was just going. I was like,
well, shout out to Adobe. That's when we threw it into After Effects and started tweaking all the colors and trying to get it to match up, because there was all of our, like, even on some of the cube stuff and some of the sections, we're like, this is great, and then you look at it and you're like, wow, this really sucks when it's all put together. So we used comping to colorize and get everything to feel like it was a little bit more as one, and then just kind of drilled at that, and yeah, I think that was and then there was just an acceptance of like, we have to finish, or there's nothing to experience, and just, and then you kind of, it sounds so cynical, because it is, I'm really proud of it, and it was really just a beautiful experience, especially with friends, but there's always a kind of a learn to love it moment, and that's when you're like, oh yeah, you see it for the joy of it, and so it was just cool.
What was the feeling seeing it with your friends just on this incredible canvas?
Beyond.
Yeah.
There's no words. Like, it's in the same way that I see my friends standing on stage, like Ross earlier, and showing his work, or Miguel earlier, and just seeing all that. Same. It's just like, you're just like, hell yeah. Like, just the
incredible. Well done. It's such an amazing piece. The reason why we got permission, acceptance, curiosity, and gratitude on the screen is because we were talking about how we perceive our creative processes, and I believe that permission is something that you look at the now versus how, but I want to do something, I've got no idea what it really entails, I really shouldn't know how difficult it could be, and then you go down the journey. So for your now versus how, was like, hey Pep, can we do the titles? And he said, yes, that was your now. We're like, how do I make it now? And then you go into state of acceptance, going, okay, well, if I accept the skill set, the constraints, everything, then that will give me a chance to create the work. And then we go into a place of curiosity, going, what can I do with this? Because I know that I've got the foundation sorted. And we go, actually, now, what you kind of, I think, quite clearly displayed is the place of gratitude, of having the ability to share this with the world, both with the audience here, like share it and actually be able to do this, because I feel these are sort of our mirrors of how we see the processes, that being able to do what we do, how lucky are we that we can sit in this room, talk about creativity and celebrate creativity at this festival. That's, for me, it's always a place of deep gratitude, being able to do this, because it's something that other people potentially can't do. So it's just,
I feel with a vengeance so strongly about this and how it represents OFF, and I think represents everybody that's here and everybody I've been inspired by, because I think alone, especially when we're younger artists, we ask for permission to be creative or to be a part of things, but then you have people like Seth Epstein from Los York. He didn't talk about this, but he was my very first boss, and he
was he?
Yeah, and he created this culture to not only not ask for permission, but to bring your courage and audacity and just go shoot for the moon. It was the culture he created creatively that set the course of my entire career to just go as boldly as I possibly could. And then I think just all the rest of them, curiosity and acceptance and gratitude. Curiosity and acceptance particularly is from friends. I think the biggest thing that when I stand here at OFF and look at these talks, you're like, there's no magic button that cures all of the challenges, but you're like, holy shit, that person's going through the same thing, and that person too, and you're heroes, and you're like, man, it's very, very cathartic to go home being like, okay, other people are too. That gives me fuel to like keep just grinding through and making rad shit, and then the gratitude is just being here together with friends of every shape and seeing everybody both delighted and inspired and shining on the stage. It's just like, man, that's all like, this is why this is this, and it's awesome.
So I'm going to confuse the audience with another 3 words.
Yeah.
Because I call this the 3 stages of a creative career or creative life, or just life. And the inward stage is the egocentric us, like when everyone can remember when they started in the industry. It was like, I know the best, I can do what I know, we're going to do it my way, because I have been here for 5 minutes, I don't know anything. You go there with that sort of your own permission, sort of naivety, and you want your credit on everything, you want to be celebrated, and then you realize, actually, if I let go a little bit, I can do stuff for other people. Like, what am I here for the good of the project? Like, what can I deliver? How can I let go and actually work with the team and be less of a dick to, try to sort of project every single idea into this? Then I feel like where you are in your stage of your career now is the forward stage, which is the we. Like, what can you do for everyone? Like, how can I give away the time, the creativity, the skill set? Because what you created ultimately is very generous piece that pushed you to places that you don't choose to go voluntarily to say, I want to be stressed, I want to do this, but you've chosen to create something that celebrates this community, this friendship that it's like no other.
Yeah, like I'm the biggest cheerleader of everybody I possibly can, and I'm not afraid to be a fanboy, and I try to help as much as I can, because like it's like stuff. I mean, how many times there's things where you're like, oh yeah, that's easy. We just do it this way, and it like lights someone up that might not know. And if I can find like a cheat code to help anybody to get through and get to the fun part faster and more, like man, like that's what I would want on the other side of that equation. And so it's like let's do it. And I think so much of it just comes down to friendship in the end. And like that's like the seed. Like think about this. Think about some of the most fun moments of creativity, and I think about it in a studio session, like especially early on at a studio. It's like 5 of us in a room late at night grinding, like, we're the underdogs, but it's like in some deadline, whatever, and like it's the time of your life. Like time, if it's creative flow, things flow by even though it's crazy, and it's just like let's box that up and like have that be life, and that's the friendship and the community, and it's cool.
I think there's one word that came to me from what you just said, and that's the word joy.
Yeah.
Because the endless hours, as long as they might be, like they're still joining it, because if you didn't enjoy it, why would you be there?
Well, that's the whole thing, is just like clearing out all the noise to find the joy, and like there's always going to be some reason not to, but
Yeah. So I hope you've done your homework, because we'll try to do an experiment. Shall I get you to advise our audience what to do next?
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out that card. You might have to close your eyes because I don't want anybody to poke their eye out. But you're going to take the card, and I'm going to record this. And on the count of 3,
right. Could we have the house lights on by the chance?
Here's why you're going to do this. At the count of 3, we're going to throw it out in the air, and someone else is going to find your reason for joy.
Ideally, maybe you want to stand up. So you're going to stand up, if you can stand up. If you don't want to stand, I'm not sure why. But if you stand up, have you got one of these? If you fill it in, I mean, if it's empty, you might want to keep it. But what we wanted to do, we wanted you to throw the card in the air, wherever it lands. If it lands on your head, I'm sorry. But it's the reason why we wanted to do it, so we share the reason what daring forever means to you, what gives you joy. So if somebody else finds it, they've got your opinion, right? Does it make sense?
We want you to create joy for somebody else. This is our little game.
Right.
You want to count them off?
Should we go 3, 2, 1, go? Yep. So
yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. All right. Now find some joy. Let's see how this works. Let's see if this actually works. But you guys, thank you.
Well, that turned out better than I thought.
I think the cleaning people are going to be pissed at us, but it's fine.
We'll do a search party just in a second. Whoa, that was a good one.
That's a good shot. Let me see.
Well done, Burton.
Yeah.
All right. Burton, you're going to be on the spot now. Excuse me. So, our little experiment. Thank you for taking part. What did he say? Burton, we got you. Can you read it?
Nothing, because today I heard about it for the very first time. That's all right. It's
He needs more time.
He needs more time. That's okay.
PJ, what would you say about, how would you summarize the process of making titles? How would you say in one couple of sentences what the process was about and how many emails you're going to send next to ask for more title work and other stuff like this? Because it clearly pushed you in a new direction. It pushed you into places that made you stressed, made you emotional, but ultimately celebrating what you've created is I think, it's an incredible piece of work that you've created. Because when I said it for the first time, it was 9 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, that was a lot of work.
I think it's just, like you said, just asking and keep asking, and eventually something will stick. And then, I think just owning the truth of the journey as the art, because for good and for bad and easy and for hard, that's it. And just try to lead with your real experience.
I want to thank you for everything that you've created. I think you're an incredible creative, creating work that moves people, color, joy, full of gratitude, full of amazing work. I mean, you work with so many different sectors, creating amazing visual storytelling. And you're one of the most humble people in our industry,
Yeah,
so thank you.
Thank you, Radim, but thank you guys. This is the inspiration here.
Thank you. The Daring Creativity podcast is going to be a book. It's going to be a book in January 2027, and all of the conversations from the podcast will be in there. I've got a book called Daring Forever, which is coming out in October. There's a little card that you can pre-order the book if you want a limited edition, but the link is not up yet, so do it tomorrow. And I want just to give it up for PJ. Make a lot of noise because you are incredible.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Tell me what you want.